Hey guys, tonight we sail across spice-scented waters to a land where the air hums with cardamom and the sand clings sweetly to your soles. You're not just walking any ancient coastline, you're waking up barefoot in a palm-fringed cove of ancient Lanka. Sometime before Europe knew the difference between cinnamon and a tree branch. Your bed is a woven mat, still warm from the sun. A monkey chatters somewhere behind the tamarind trees. But what really gets your attention isn't the noise, it's the smell. Sweet, woody, a little sharp like biting a candy cane carved from a jungle branch. That, my friend, is cinnamon. It's everywhere. In the air, on your shirt, in your mouth, and somehow on your sandals, which now have a faint rash forming on your ankles. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Let me know where you're listening from and what time it is. Are you winding down at 9 p.m. in Toronto or sneaking in history dreams at 3 a.m. in Manila? Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You sit up, scratching your ankle. The sandals are made of coir and leather, damp from dew. There's a reddish tint at the seams, leftover paste from the cinnamon trade, maybe. It burns a little, but that's life. Traders call it the tingle of fortune, and if the legends are right, it might also be the curse. Locals whisper about it, the curse of the spiced sandals. They say if you handle cinnamon carelessly or profit too greedily from the bark, your feet start itching, then burning. Then, well, no one talks much after that, but you're new. And you've got bark to carry and silver to earn. So you walk toward the harbor. The smell intensifies as you near the docks. Ships bob lazily, their sails furled like sleeping birds. The waters are coppery and calm, and the air's heavy with smoke from bark fires. A boy sells bundles of cinnamon tied in red thread. He shouts in a mix of Tamil and Sinhala, and you barely catch the word for blessing, or maybe blister, hard to tell with his grin. Cinnamon here isn't just spice, it's power. Before empires rose and fell, before Rome ever burned, incense in marble halls, this coastline thrived on spice. Ancient tribes peeled bark from wild Cinnamomum verum trees, hidden in deep green tangles only the brave or desperate dared enter. Harvesting wasn't just a chore, it was a ritual. The moon had to be right, so did the wind. And if you stepped into the grove wearing the wrong shoes, well, that's how the first sandal curse supposedly began. Historians still argue whether these curses were superstition or early chemical reactions. Some point to cinnamon oil's intense properties and how it can inflame skin when mishandled. Others say it's just a story that merchants told to keep foreign poachers out of the trees. But either way, the legend stuck. You pass a woman soaking cinnamon bark in seawater singing, a low chant to keep the spirits calm. She dips the strips gently, like she's bathing a child. It's said that wet cinnamon loses its fire, makes it safe for packing and transport. You nod respectfully and don't ask questions. Not after what happened to that Portuguese sailor last week, the one whose shoes caught fire after a hot-footed stroll through the warehouse. Coincidence? Maybe, but you're not taking chances. At the harbor, a trader from Persia leans against a crate, his robe open to catch the breeze. He offers you a sip of clove-laced date wine, but you decline. Too early. Plus, there's the matter of your sandals. You ask if he's ever heard of the curse. He laughs, showing teeth stained from betel nut, and says, "Only fools wear cinnamon where they walk." You look down. Too late. The reddish stains shimmer faintly in the sun now. Your feet feel buzzy, like a gentle static hum. You pretend not to notice and change the subject. In the distance, gulls cry over a smaller boat arriving with another load of bark bundles. A girl, maybe 12, hops off with a practiced leap, her arms full of coiled cinnamon sticks. She's barefoot. Smart girl. You help unload, careful not to touch the bark with your sandals again. Each bundle's wrapped in palm leaf, tied with hand-spun cord, and still warm from the grove. As you stack them, you notice a curious detail. A sandal-shaped burn mark on one of the crates. Faint, charcoal-edged, almost like... No, it couldn't be. But it is. You trace it with your finger. It's warm. Definitely a sandal imprint seared into the wood. The Persian sees you staring and mutters, "Third one this week." He doesn't elaborate. Now your feet really tingle. The harbor master blows a conch shell, signaling the midday tally. You check your inventory and try not to think about the legends. About the old man who once wore cinnamon-infused soles and woke up speaking only in spices. Clove, turmeric, cardamom, he'd whisper until even his goats refused to follow him. You shake off the thought. There's money to be made. Spices to pack, sandals to maybe swap out later. For now, you walk slowly, gingerly, toward the storage hut. Each step echoes a little louder than the last. You duck beneath the low, palm-thatched roof of the storage hut, blinking as the golden light dims to the amber glow of filtered sunshine through woven matting. Inside, the scent hits you again, stronger now. Not just cinnamon bark, but it's volatile. Oils rising off damp bundles, mingling with traces of old sweat, moldy rope, and the faint sulfuric sting of sea salt that never quite leaves. Your feet still hum faintly in your sandals. You wiggle your toes, hoping they're not glowing yet. It's time to prep the goods. The bark has to be trimmed into even curls, sorted by grade, quills, featherings, broken sticks, and repacked. With dried banana leaves. Your job is to oversee 3 young apprentices, all of whom are currently engaged in a heated debate about whether a bundle with a tiny bite mark should count as first quality. One insists it was just a rat. The other swears it's a ghost mark. Some say the cursed sandals leave tooth-like impressions when the wearer lies about cinnamon weights. Historians still argue whether these bite marks were due to vermin, mislabeling by panicked workers, or simply psychological projection by overworked spice handlers. But today, you decide it's just a rat and move on. You pass a small shrine in the corner of the hut, a crude clay sandal resting atop a stack of cinnamon bundles. Offerings of coin, dried mango, and a feathered anklet are piled at its base. You chuckle. Even here, surrounded by work and sweat and contracts, the curse of the spiced sandals gets its due respect. Everyone jokes about it. But no one dares work barefoot inside the hut. Go figure. As the apprentices start rewrapping the bark, you take inventory with your stylus and palm leaf ledger. It's slow work. You check off Grade 1, thin Ceylonese true bark. Grade 2, mixed, possibly adulterated, and then hesitate at a bundle tied in purple thread. That color's reserved for royal export. It shouldn't be here, and definitely not smelling this strong. You peel back the leaf wrapping and immediately your eyes water. The cinnamon oil is so concentrated it's seeped into the cord, blistering the fiber. A tiny wisp of steam escapes. You drop the bundle with a hiss, and that's when your sandal starts smoldering. Just a little. Nothing dramatic, no flames, just that faint of damp heat meeting volatile oil. You stamp your foot. The apprentices stare. One makes a gesture against the evil eye. Another offers you a papaya leaf to sit on. You take it and sit, slowly, carefully. "Maybe you should bless your sandals," says the oldest apprentice, not looking up from her work. You snort. "With what?" she shrugs. "Salt water, or lime, juice. My uncle says coconut milk, but he's missing 2 toes." Fair point. As the sun creeps past its zenith, traders begin arriving. Arab merchants with their brilliant robes and silver-threaded turbans. Tamil sea captains with fingers heavy in rings. Even a wandering monk in saffron robes who claims he once cured a cinnamon-induced rash with a silent prayer and a mango pit. They all want the same thing. bark, and stories. Because here's the thing about Sri Lankan cinnamon. It's not just a spice, it's currency, it's myth. It's whispered to enhance memory, virility, and even ward off sea serpents, if you believe the right sailors. And sandal. Curses? They're just one part of the cinnamon saga. A fringe detail, maybe. But recurring enough that foreign traders have started asking for unspiced shoes at the markets. You once saw a Dutchman wash his clogs in coconut vinegar for an hour before stepping on the dock. You inspect another crate, this one marked for export to Alexandria. Inside, bundles are packed with layers of dried tamarind leaves and coconut husk. Smart packing. Neutralizes the cinnamon. Supposedly, you give it a sniff. Still spicy. One trader sidles up beside you, a thin man with a hawk-like nose and teeth stained pink from chewing betel leaf. He leans close and says, "Do you know the real curse?" You raise an eyebrow. He nods toward your feet. "It's not the sandals, it's the pride." You laugh. "Is that why my ankles itch?" He grins. "Maybe. Or maybe the bark wants you barefoot. Philosophy aside, your ankles do itch. Badly now. Like you've been walking through chilly powder." You excuse yourself and step outside into the humid afternoon glare. The heat hits like a wet blanket. You tug at the leather straps, peel your sandals off, and hiss as cool air rushes over raw, red skin. There's a faint outline of bark pressed into the sole. You toss the sandals into a water trough where they float like soggy toast. Behind you, a kid giggles. First time, you nod, sheepish. He tosses you a pair of woven grass slippers, thin, soft, and blissfully spice-free. Try those, until you learn respect. He winks and runs off. You slip them on. Immediate relief. They smell like nothing. Perfect. Inside. The hut. The monk is chanting quietly now, waving a smudge stick made from dried curry leaf. Smoke drifts toward the clay sandal shrine. You wonder if he's blessing the crates or just airing out his robes. Either way, you decide to join him. You light a stick of bark, not too thick, not too dry, and let it curl into embers. The smoke rises slowly. Sweet, warm, like safety, like sleep. You take a deep breath, feet tingling, head spinning ever so slightly, and you wonder, who cursed the sandals first? You wake up from a light nap under a cinnamon cart, your nose tickled by the spice-scented dust, and your new grass slippers slightly chewed at the edges, probably by that sarcastic goat everyone calls Captain Barkbeard. The sun has mellowed, now, slanting across the harbor like a thick golden syrup, and it's time to get moving again. Your feet are no longer burning, though your pride still stings a little. No one likes being the fresh-footed one who got cursed on day one. You stretch, yawn, and get to your next stop, the drying racks. Here, rows upon rows of thin cinnamon strips curl like sleepy snakes in the sun. The smell is intoxicating, almost too much. Your tongue tingles, and your stomach rumbles even though you ate not that long ago. Cinnamon does that to people. Ancient traders noted its strange ability to stimulate both appetite and paranoia. Historians still argue whether this was a placebo effect or a genuine response to cinnamon oil's mild hallucinogenic compounds when inhaled in high doses. A boy nearby sneezes 3 times in rapid succession and blurts, "Sorry, spice ghosts." You nod solemnly. No need to explain. Everyone's been there. Today's task is trimming and bundling for the outbound shipment. But first, you help old Aya, the bark master, select the highest grade cuts. He fingers each strip like a jeweler, inspecting pearls, murmuring old trade codes, split end feather, ghost line curl, double roll royal. No one writes these names down. They're passed through breath and bark. Aya pauses suddenly and squints toward the racks. "You see that bundle there?" he whispers. You nod. It's unremarkable at first glance, just another tight roll. But Aya leans in, lowers his voice. That's cursed. You glance around, expecting a laugh. None comes. That strip came from a tree no one could find again, he says. Grew once. Bark was unusually red, too strong. It burned a trader's tongue clean off, they say. Now it's bad luck. You step back instinctively. Why keep it? Aya shrugs. Can't throw it away. The wind might carry it. Better to watch it. Then he nods and moves on like he just told you where to put the papayas. You mark the cursed bundle with a piece of blue thread and make a mental note not to ship it anywhere important, like Rome. Speaking of Rome, the cinnamon. Craze there is already in full swing. Somewhere across the sea, a senator is probably bathing in spiced oil while quoting Cicero and wondering aloud if the bark improves his complexion. You remember the story Aya told yesterday about a Roman emperor who paid the weight of his mistress's perfume bottle in cinnamon. That's a lot of bark, especially if the bottle was gold. The Romans didn't know where cinnamon really came from. They believed it grew in deep caves guarded by giant bats, or that phoenixes collected it in their nests, combusting it upon death in a fragrant fireball. Historians still argue whether these myths were invented by traders or genuinely believed, Aya had said, eyes twinkling. But either way, it kept the truth safe. You wonder how the first Sri Lankan trader felt, watching Roman ships load crates of cinnamon bark, smug in the knowledge that their buyers thought the stuff fell from the sky. Genius, really. You lift another bundle to your nose, clean, crisp, subtle. This one's perfect. You tie it with green thread and stamp it with the house seal, a fish holding a cinnamon stick in its mouth. Your family's mark. You smile. Somewhere, this bundle will make its way to a Cairo perfume shop or a Constantinople apothecary. Maybe it'll end up in a monk's stew or a prince's boot. You hope it doesn't end up in another cursed sandal. You remember that odd case last year, the merchant who lined his sandals with cinnamon to smell more inviting to clients. It worked for 2 weeks. Then his toes started turning purple. Not frostbite, not infection, just purple. His shoes were confiscated and burned in a ceremony that involved chanting and 2 coconuts. You look down at your grass slippers, safe, blessedly boring. As you pack the final bundles into crates, you hear laughter near the docks. A new shipments, arrived from across the strait, Arab merchants with brilliant textiles and jars of fig wine. They're unloading fast, but one crate tips over. Cinnamon spills everywhere. A young trader runs to gather it, but slips and lands flat on his back, coughing, red-faced, and suddenly very quiet. You rush over. His shoes, bright blue and oddly shiny, have a faint glow now, just at the seams. The crowd murmurs. Someone mutters about sandal oil seepage. A woman touches his shoulder. Remove them. He hesitates. His eyes cross. She pulls the sandals off herself and flings them into the sea. They float, then sink. The trader recovers quickly, blinking in confusion. Did I start singing just now? You shake your head. Almost. He rubs his feet. Bad batch. Someone nods. Or cursed blend. You all pretend it was just the heat. That night, back at your sleeping mat, you rub coconut balm into your ankles. The redness is fading. You survived your first full cinnamon day. No hallucinations, no flames. Just a healthy respect for bark. And a new pair of itchy, but safe, slippers. You drift off with the scent of spice in your nose and the distant lull of waves crashing like soft drums on the cinnamon-stained sand. The morning wakes you early, not with birdsong, but with a merchant yelling about missing bark and shoes that vanished in the night. You blink against the light, sticky with sweat and cinnamon dust, and sit up to find your grass slippers, mysteriously swapped out for a slightly damp pair of leather sandals. You sniff them, faintly sweet, suspiciously warm. You do not put them on. Instead, you walk barefoot toward the northern grove, where today's bark harvest begins. The earth here is soft, dappled by thick-leafed trees whose twisting roots knot across the path like sleepy serpents. You tread carefully. It's said the cinnamon trees here are older than the temples. Some still bear scorch marks from lightning, others hollowed by age, but still weeping that precious sap. The oldest cutters believe the trees feel pain. They ask permission before cutting, with a whisper and a tap of the blade. Your job this morning is to assist a master harvester named Keitha, who insists cinnamon must be coaxed, not taken. She carries her knives wrapped in banana leaves and walks with a limp, which she claims came from a tree that bit back. You don't ask, you follow her through the underbrush as she mutters greetings to each tree. She tests their bark with her fingernail, nodding when it peels cleanly. That's when she strikes, quick, careful, rhythmic cuts that lift long curls of bark like unraveling scrolls. The trick, she says, is to cut where the spirit's already loosening. You nod as if you understand. She hands you a blade. Your turn. You kneel, trying to mimic her style. Your first cut is too shallow. Your second, too deep. The third makes the tree squeak like a startled mouse. Gentler, Keitha says, or you'll wake the curse. You pause. Is that real? The sandal thing? She chuckles. It's not the sandals, it's the greed. She wipes sap from your hand with a leaf. Walk in bark too often, and it clings to you. You manage a decent fourth cut. The bark peels away in a tight curl, exposing the pale wood beneath. Keitha nods. Better. As you carry the harvest back, the smell is different, fresher, sharper than the dried stuff. It clings to your arms, your face, your hair. You're one walking spice rack now, and the monkeys seem to notice. One follows you for half a mile, sniffing dramatically and chattering complaints when you offer no food. Back in the village, the fresh bark is laid out on woven mats to dry. You help arrange the curls, careful not to overlap. Moisture leads to rot, and rot leads to nightmares. At least that's what the children say. There's a song they sing, if your cinnamon sleeps in the rain, the spirits come hopping again. Historians still argue whether these nursery rhymes were meant to instill real caution or simply entertain. But one thing's for sure. Every family has at least one spice-related ghost story. You remember your uncle's tale. A cursed sandal left too close to a drying rack absorbed so much bark oil, it began to creak on its own. Days later, the wearer disappeared. All they found was one cinnamon-stained footprint on the temple steps. You never wore sandals after dark again. That evening, the cinnamon is bundled and sorted. You notice one package has been tied with silver thread. That's for temple use only. Ritual fires, sacred teas, maybe an offering for a wedding. You handle it gently, as if it could whisper. Then you see her, Nalia, the traveling storyteller, back from her circuit through the hill temples. She walks barefoot, as always, and carries a carved staff wrapped in red silk. Her anklets jingle softly. You catch her eye and nod. Later, by the central fire, she performs. Not with loud drums or shouting, but with soft, curling words like smoke. Once, there was a prince who wore sandals made from cinnamon bark, she begins. The crowd leans in. He did not earn them. He did not ask the trees. He simply took. The children shiver. Someone passes you a cup of spiced palm wine. You sip. It's warm, slightly bitter. The sandals made him fast, Nalia continues. So fast he could steal from temples without being seen. So fast he outran his own breath. She pauses. But the bark remembered. You glance down at your own bare feet. One day he stopped, and the sandals didn't. Nalia snaps her fingers. Silence falls. That night, no one sleeps easily. The fire burns low. You lie awake on your mat, staring at the stars. Somewhere, a sandal creaks. Just once. You tell yourself it's the wind. You wake before dawn, wrapped in mist and silence. Your skin sticky from the humid night. The fire has long since died, but the air still holds the sleepy perfume of burnt cinnamon. You rub your eyes, stretch your legs, and notice someone has left you a gift. 2 palm leaf sandals, braided with strands of turmeric-dyed fiber. A note scratched into a coconut shell reads, "For walking without waking the bark." Probably Nalia, probably a joke. You slip them on anyway. They're light, almost invisible against the dirt path. Today's task: meet the merchant ship from the Arabian coast. They've come not just for bark, but for oil, powder, and, more dangerously, cinnamon paste, which is a concentrated nightmare, if mishandled. One legend tells of a trader who mistook a spoonful of the stuff for date jam. He supposedly ran laps around his own camel for 3 days. Historians still argue whether that story's apocryphal or a metaphor for addiction. Either way, you resolve not to taste anything unsupervised. The harbor is buzzing with pre-dawn energy. Lanterns flicker like fireflies between crates. You can hear the rhythmic slap of wet ropes being coiled and the softer, stranger noise of a man sneezing repeatedly in Arabic. Cinnamon dust hits different depending on the humidity, and this morning is moist as a steamed pudding. You find the ship quickly, sleek, wood-polished, smelling of cardamom and damp wool. A sailor gestures you aboard. His boots squeak audibly on the gangplank, and you notice him glance at your palm leaf slippers with envy. "Still dry?" he asks. You nod. The ship's hold is already half filled with jars of ginger, dried figs, and tightly sealed pouches marked with the red ink rune. For volatile. That's the paste. You're only meant to inspect 3 samples and mark the rest with your stamp. Easy. Except one of the jars is warm. You lift it carefully. The seal's intact, but the glass fogs slightly when touched. You set it down and step back. "This one," you say, "might be cursed." The sailor groans. "Again?" It turns out that the crew tried to sneak a sample to make spiced sandals for his wife. Romantic, yes. Smart? No. The moment the oils touched leather, the smell went from sweet to downright sinister. Burnt sugar, sweat, and something metallic. The sandals didn't ignite, but they did slide across the floor on their own for a full hour. "We locked them in the grain bin," the sailor says, scratching his beard. "They stopped after that. Probably." You sigh and mark the crate with the cursed bark rune. 3 spirals inside a sandal shape. Then you help seal it in beeswax and offer a silent apology to the spirit of overstepped boundaries. Outside, traders haggle loudly over cinnamon measurements. A particularly ambitious man is trying to trade 6 bundles for a Persian sword with gold inlay. You suspect he'll walk away with a spoon. Maybe 2. You make your way back toward the village, crates now labeled and ready. You pass by a group of women kneeling beside a long table, preparing cinnamon for ceremonial perfumes. They're grinding bark with rose petals and sandalwood dust, humming quietly as the mixture swirls into a dark red powder. One pauses to wave you over. "You," she says, "smell of sun and bark." "Thank you?" you reply, unsure. She gestures to your sandals. "They've held no fire. You should bless them." Before you can object, she sprinkles a bit of the perfumed powder onto the tops of your feet and whispers something into her palm. The powder tingles, then settles. A goat nearby sneezes. "You're protected," she says before turning back to her work. Feeling strangely honored and mildly concerned, you continue down the path. At the village square, Nalia is telling another story. This one about a cinnamon smuggler who replaced his ship's sails with layers of dried bark. It worked surprisingly well until the ship passed too close to a lighthouse fire and caught wind, and then flame. It lit the whole coast with spice, she says, eyes glinting. They say for 3 days, every fish in the bay tasted like cake. You laugh along with the children, though one of the elders grumbles, waste of good bark. You help load the final shipments onto the ox carts bound for the inland cities. Each crate is stamped, blessed, and tied with thread coated by scent, red for strong, blue for mild, green for ceremonial, and black, rarely used for cursed or experimental. There's one black-threaded bundle this time. You don't ask. You walk home slowly, the sun setting behind you in shades of gold and cinnamon. Your feet no longer tingle. The slippers are still intact. And for the first time in days, you feel entirely at peace. Until you hear it. A soft creak. Not wood. Not leather. Sandal. You turn. Nothing. Just a cat watching you from atop a barrel. But you walk a little faster. Just in case. Sleep comes easily that night. Though your dreams are thick and strange. Syrupy scenes of sandals walking themselves across moonlit beaches, of cinnamon bark curling like smoke into giant words you can't quite read. You wake before dawn again, this time with the memory of a voice whispering in your ear. Greed leaves footprints. You try to shake it off. Maybe it was just Nalia again, speaking in dreams like she tends to do. Today you've been assigned to one of the royal bark inspection teams. This is serious business. No spice is allowed to leave certain trees without being first approved by the king's agents. It's rumored that a single crooked cinnamon stick smuggled out could curse a whole merchant family for generations. You're not sure if that's true, but you are sure you don't want your name in a temple scroll next to the phrase spice defiler. You travel by ox cart to the inspection grove, farther inland, where the forest thickens and the air feels more alive, like it's listening. The road is quiet, and your fellow traders mostly whisper. One of them, a thin man named Devu, shares a tale about the Inspector General's uncle, who once wore cinnamon paste on his heels for strength. He did one backflip and vanished, Devu says. Never landed. You laugh, but keep checking your own feet anyway. The Royal Grove is otherworldly. Cinnamon trees grow here with unnaturally smooth bark, arranged in tight, orderly rows. The paths are swept daily. The trees tap gently to keep the sap flowing evenly. Only the king's bark cutters are allowed to harvest here, and they do so with golden tools, passed down for centuries. You're greeted by the inspection overseer, an older man with fingers stained dark from years of spice handling. He doesn't smile, just gestures to the table of bundles awaiting judgment. One by one, you help unwrap the bark. Some curls are near perfect, tight, golden red spirals that flake with a faint hiss when cracked. Others are suspect, too pale, too brittle. One even has what appears to be a sandal imprint scorched across it. You glance around. The overseer nods grimly. We found it that way. No cutter claimed it. Could it be a prank? You ask. Or a warning, he replies. Historians still argue whether such spiced marks were ever intentional, part of a secret guild language, or if they were signs of natural sap reactions. Some claim they're divine symbols left by tree spirits when bark is stolen improperly. Others, more skeptical, say it's just overexposure to tropical sun. Either way, you label it unfit and move on. By midday, the air in the grove is thick with cinnamon mist. You feel slightly lightheaded, so does everyone else. The overseer brings out a jug of tamarind water and insists you drink. Spice sickness comes slow, he says. Starts with dreams, ends with dancing in the fire pit. You drink twice. As you're wrapping a final bundle, you hear a low humming. Not music, not speech, a vibration. You pause, tilt your head. It's coming from the basket behind you. You turn. Nothing. You lift the lid. Still nothing. Just a few half-dried quills and a scattering of black thread. But the humming lingers. The overseer watches you, says nothing, but walks over and marks the basket with a line of chalk. Then he mumbles something into his sleeve and walks away. Later, as you help reload the ox carts, a group of temple boys arrive to perform a blessing. They toss puffed rice, smear ash on the wheels, and chant softly. You recognize a phrase, pada spice, literally foot spice, a reference to the old curses. The carts are marked with sandal shapes again. Is it all ceremony? You ask one of them. He grins. Ceremony is what keeps the sandals sleeping. On the ride back, Devu asks if you believe in the curse. You hesitate. I believe in caution. He nods, satisfied. That's what the bark wants. When you arrive in the village, the square is buzzing. A new shipment from the southern hills has arrived. Double-rolled quills with a sweetness so intense, someone joked it could season a war elephant's breath for a week. There's a crowd gathered around a single pair of sandals nailed to a post, bright red, smoldering faintly. You ask what happened. Trader tried to line them with fresh paste, someone mutters. Said it was a signature scent. Walked 10 steps. Vanished on the 11th, the crowd murmurs. Someone lights incense, you go home barefoot again. By now, going barefoot feels more natural than not. Your feet are toughened to the sand, the sticks, even the occasional sneaky ant. The air always carries the scent of spice, and you swear it's soaked into your skin, like a perfume you can't rinse off. There's no hiding from cinnamon here, not in the markets, not in your blankets, and definitely not in your teeth, which now carry a faint barky crunch every time you chew. No one warned you, cinnamon dust gets everywhere. Today, you're summoned to the elder's hut for an unusual task, inspecting a new find from a nearby dig site. A few village boys, playing near a dried-up stream bed, uncovered several strange objects buried under smooth river stones. Bundles of bark wrapped in gold thread, and stranger still, a pair of sandals made entirely of cinnamon wood. You follow the path up to the elder's hut, already dreading what cursed whiff might hit you. The sandals are displayed like relics, balanced atop a woven mat, surrounded by dried petals and pungent turmeric smoke. And yes, they reek. Not in a bad way, necessarily, just unnaturally strong, as though the bark is still alive, still, releasing its scent hundreds of years after being carved. One elder gestures for you to sit. You've handled spice with care, she says. We'd like your judgment. You blink. Judgment on what? She points to the sandals. Whether they still walk. That's not a joke. No one laughs. The sandals, you learn, are believed to belong to one of the first spice traders from the legendary Bark Circle, a semi-mythical guild said to have walked barefoot from Lanka to Antioch, leaving only cinnamon footprints behind. According to folklore, they infused their shoes with spice as a blessing, until one of them used too much paste and vanished mid-step, leaving only a sandal and a very confused goat. You lean forward. The sandals are cracked, brittle at the heels but still smooth on the sole. There's a faint shimmer along the grain, like oil trapped beneath the surface. You resist the urge to sniff too close. Are they dangerous? You ask. An elder shrugs. Depends on who wears them. Another adds, they might be ceremonial or cursed or both. Historians still argue whether the Bark Circle ever truly existed or if the story was invented by jealous merchants trying to mystify the market. Either way, these sandals were buried deliberately, which means someone wanted them forgotten. You touch one gently. The wood is warm, just a little, not sun-warmed. Internally warm. You pull your hand back. I wouldn't try them on, you mutter. The elders nod solemnly. We won't. You help them rewrap the sandals, tying the gold. Thread with steady hands. They're stored in a sandal-shaped box, locked with a sandalwood peg, and buried again. this time beneath the central altar, next to a jar of salt and a packet of dried mint leaves. For balance, they say. As you leave the hut, you spot Nalia, leaning against a palm tree. "They still hum?" she asks. You nod, she grins. "Then they're still listening." Back in the village square, traders from the mountains have set up shop. They're selling not just cinnamon, but its cousins, cassia, cardamom, even a hybrid spice they claim is sinja, a cinnamon ginger blend you suspect was made in Zol. A panic when they spilled both into the same bag. You try a pinch of the sinja paste. Your mouth goes numb for 5 seconds, then burns, then tingles like bees tap dancing across your gums. It's oddly pleasant. You thank them, but politely decline the sandals they're selling, lined with the same paste. "Too spicy," you say. They nod knowingly. Nearby, children play a game called Run from the Bark. One pretends to be a cursed sandal, the others scream and scatter. You can't help but laugh. A toddler toddles past, wearing 2 bowls on her feet and chanting, "No burn! No burn!" It's adorable, and honestly, practical. The rest of the day you spend cataloging spice bundles for the next full moon shipment. A special order, this one, headed for a foreign court rumored to bathe their royalty in scented steam. The buyer has requested bark without ghosts. You aren't sure what that means exactly, but you triple-check each bundle for discoloration, oil residue, or suspicious warmth. One batch rattles faintly when shaken, and you mark it for spiritual cleansing. Before sundown, a group of dancers arrives to bless the crates. They circle the bundles with anklets jingling, throwing flower petals and stomping in rhythm. It's mesmerizing. Your feet start tapping on their own. You hope the bark approves. That night, you walk home slowly, the day's heat still rising, in waves off the road. At your door, you find something tucked into the threshold, a tiny sandal carved from cinnamon bark, no bigger than your thumb. It's smooth, warm, humming. You put it in a bowl of salt, just in case. You wake the next morning to a scratching sound, tiny, rhythmic, not threatening exactly, just persistent. You sit up, still bleary, and glance toward the bowl of salt by your door. The miniature sandal is missing. You freeze, then notice, thankfully, it has only fallen to the side, half buried in spilled salt. No trails, no scorch marks, no cinnamon curls spiraling up to form ominous warnings on your wall. Just a small carved shoe, humming softly like it did yesterday, as if disappointed to have been left out of the conversation overnight. You pick it up, wrap it in banana leaf, and tuck it into a pouch beside your waist. If it wants company, it's got it now. Today, you're headed to the southern coast, specifically to the rival port town where cinnamon clans sometimes clash over who owns which grove and who bribed which tax collector. You're not looking for drama, just a shipment. Still, you carry with you a handful of sweet limes, 2 clay seals, and the understanding that someone may try to sneak chili into your sandals if they don't like your face. The ride south takes hours, the ox cart creaking, the scent of dry bark wafting up from your cargo. The air thickens as you go, less wind, more sweat, more suspicion. As the town comes into view, you see it. The famous spice towers of Port Gadia, tall wooden spires where bundles are sun-dried in tears like scrolls in a scholar's dream. The scent here is dizzying. You breathe too deep and immediately regret it. Your tongue feels like it's coated in cinnamon fuzz. You hop off the cart and walk barefoot, on purpose, through the alleys of the spice quarter. No sandals, no risk. You pass market stalls where bark is sold by the finger length, where teenage boys shout insults about spice purity, and where a woman claims her cinnamon can heal heartbreak, foot fungus, and loneliness in cats. You don't ask. Your goal is the house of Clan Hada, one of the oldest spice families in the region. They're known for quality bark, tight security, and the kind of pranks that once ended with someone waking up with a basket of live cobras and 2 boots full of clove paste. You approach their compound carefully. A small man with a long braid and the stance of a very confident squirrel waves you in. "You're the one from up north?" he asks. You nod, show him your trade seals. "Good," he says. "We've been expecting the cinnamon whisperer. You blink." "I don't whisper." He leans in. "Not yet." Inside, you're shown to a cool room lined with drying racks and sandal displays. Yes, sandal displays. Clan Hada has made it their mission to test exactly how much cinnamon a shoe can absorb before it either becomes unbearable or develops sentience. A chart on the wall lists incidents by month. The spiced sandal incident of month 8 is marked, with red ink and a skull. You don't ask. The elder of the clan enters, a woman named Mala, with a smile like sharp fruit and hands dyed dark with cinnamon oil. She waves at you to sit. "We're sending bark to the east," she says. "Carefully selected, lightly blessed. No extra footsteps, if you catch my drift." You do. She gestures to a bundle wrapped in purple and orange cloth. "This one's pure. We think. But we'd like your touch." You unwrap it, gently. The bark is perfect, tight, rolled evenly, faintly warm. You sniff, sweet, deep, no hum. You tap it against your palm, still. Safe. Then you lift the second bundle. It sighs. You freeze. Mala leans forward. "That's the problem one." The bark is slightly damp, not from water, from something else. Something that smells like pepper and regret. You lift the top layer and spot it. A single sandal imprint, barely visible but undeniable. "Someone's tried to season a shoe," you say. Mala nods. "And they didn't sign their work." The scent is aggressive, like bark cooked. Too long in anger. You feel your fingertips pulse just holding it. You rewrap it carefully and mark it with a scrap of yellow cloth. "Ship it inland," you suggest. "Let the monks figure it out." Mala laughs. "They'll chant it to sleep." You help her label the other bundles, each tied with a thread, coded for destination. One for temple use, one for merchant sale, one marked experimental, which she winks at and refuses to explain. Before you leave, she offers you a pair of slippers. They're made of palm fiber dusted with turmeric and blessed by a river priest. "Just in case," she says. You accept. The walk back to your cart is uneventful until a boy runs past holding what looks suspiciously like a burning shoe. You stare. The shoe screeches faintly, like it's inhaling its last breath. The boy tosses it into a trough, laughs, and runs off again. Port Gedia. You love it. You hate it. You need a nap. Back on the road, you open your pouch and check the tiny sandal again. Still warm, still humming, and now it smells like pepper. You tie it shut with double cord, just in case. The road back north is slow, sticky, and filled with the sounds of creaking wheels, distant bird song, and your fellow trader Devu singing very off-key about a legendary cinnamon fish. You pretend not to hear him, focusing instead on the pouch. At your side, where the miniature sandal has started to hum louder, almost purring now. You think about chucking it into the bushes more than once, but something tells you it wouldn't stay gone. By the time you reach the village, the evening market is in full bloom. Candles flicker in carved coconut shells, casting shadows on the cinnamon bundles stacked like tiny temples. The air thrums with spice and sweat, and the kind of excited tension that only comes when everyone knows something is slightly off, but no one wants to say it out loud. You step into the main square and find a commotion near the communal fire pit. A sandal is smoldering on a stone, not burning, just gently releasing wisps of cinnamon-scented smoke. Children are gathered around it, poking it with sticks and giggling. "It walked here," one of them tells you. "Alone," adds another. You sigh. The sandal looks homemade, scraps of bark tied together with palm thread. the kind used by apprentice. Traders learning the craft. One of the elders approaches, shaking his head. "Third time this week," he mutters. "They're getting bold." You arch a brow. "The sandals?" "No," he says. "The boys who build them. Testing the curse, daring each other. Last week, one of them wore a double-layer cinnamon sole for 3 days. Had dreams of dancing bears and sweet potatoes that judged him silently. You nod. Standard symptoms. Historians still argue whether cinnamon hallucinations were ever truly documented or just poetic metaphors passed down through oral traditions. What's undeniable is that concentrated cinnamon oil can cause a burning sensation, blurred vision, and, in rare cases, a sudden belief that your feet can taste sound. You help the elders douse the sandal and mark it with a warning rune. It'll be ground into powder and offered to the temple hearth tomorrow, just to be safe. Back at your hut, you unpack your pouch. The tiny sandal has gone quiet. Cool now. You place it gently inside a hollowed gourd and stuff the opening with dried lemongrass. Maybe it's done humming. Maybe it's just sleeping. The next morning, you're summoned early by the village spice chief, a wiry old man named Wera with a grin that suggests he's survived 3 wars and at least 1 romantic encounter with a cinnamon spirit. He waves you into his hut, which smells overpoweringly of cloves and something yeasty. "Sit," he says. "We've got a problem." You sit. Wera lays out several bundles before you, each marked with a different color thread. Same grove, same harvest day, same cutters, but 3 different moods. You frown. "Moods?" He nods. "Watch." He unties the first bundle. The scent is sweet, warm, comforting, almost nostalgic, like the memory of bread baking. The second bundle? Sharper, peppery. Your eyes water a little. The third, you recoil. It smells off, bitter, like spoiled milk left in the sun with a dash of betrayal. These were all harvested under the same moon, Wera says, but they're acting like they've had different lives. You inspect the bark, the colors, the same. The cut's identical. But yes, there's something emotional about the scent. Like each bundle remembers a different story. "This one's angry," you say, pointing to the last. Wera nods. "It may have come from a cursed grove, or someone wore sandals they shouldn't have." You both exchange looks. "Clan Hada's shipment?" he asks. You nod slowly. "Burn it," he says immediately. You protest. "What if we sort it? Clean. It? Pray over it?" He shakes his head. "Once bark goes sour, nothing brings it back. Not prayers, not boiling, not dancing naked under the tamarind tree. Believe me, we tried." You sigh and help him seal the bitter bundle in a clay urn, marking it with soot and tying it shut with black thread. It'll be buried later. Not burned. Some things shouldn't go into the air. As you leave the hut, Wera calls after you. Calls. "Watch your slippers. If they start humming again, bite a chili and spit east. Calms the bark." You nod like that makes sense. The rest of the day, you help prepare bundles for an upcoming wedding. Cinnamon plays a major role in marital rites. Spiced. Oils for the couple's hair, bark-infused garlands, even a ceremonial sandal exchange where each partner gifts the other a pair of spice-blessed slippers. The bride and groom each receive a stick of bark tied with red thread, said to ensure passion, peace, and protection from overly affectionate ghosts. You spend the afternoon grinding bark with mortar and pestle, the rhythmic pounding soothing, almost hypnotic. Someone starts singing a work chant, and soon the whole group is in sync. It's one of those simple village moments, sunlight slanting through palm leaves, bark dust swirling in golden arcs, laughter under breath. But then, from the corner of your eye, you spot something moving, slowly, deliberately, a single sandal, just sitting, then not. It slides 2 inches across the stone floor. Everyone stops singing. Silence. You walk over. It's empty, slightly damp, smells oddly of mint. You Pick it up carefully. Inside is a tiny carving, your name. You do not put it on. You hold the sandal in your palm as if it might whisper. It doesn't. But it does smell like the inside of your grandmother's spice cabinet. Sweet, sharp, with just enough wrongness to make your skin tingle. A carved name inside a shoe. That's not something you dismiss. That's something you immediately hand over to the village priest, or bury under 6 feet of turmeric, or both. But instead, you carry it home, gingerly, and place it beside the miniature sandal in the hollow gourd. The two don't react. No humming, no heat, no smoke. Just silence, like they're waiting. The next morning, the market square buzzes with gossip. Someone swears they saw a sandal walking itself through the southern fields before collapsing into a bush. Another claims his cousin's slippers caught fire mid-poetry recital. Tragic, he says, but it was a very bad poem. You're summoned to the temple compound where the bride and groom are preparing for the cinnamon marriage ritual. The bride, Lali, is sitting cross-legged, hair damp with spice oil, eyes shining with excitement. The groom, Rama, looks less sure. He's fidgeting with his ceremonial sash and whispering to a priest. You're here to deliver the cinnamon garlands. You unroll them carefully, fresh bark strips braided with jasmine and cardamom. The scent is intoxicating, like a hug from a tree that's also a bakery. As you drape the garlands over their shoulders, the priest recites the old verses. Spice of root, bark of bond, step in scent and be not cursed. You suppress a snort. It sounds lovely, but also like it was written during a cinnamon-induced fever dream. The ritual proceeds smoothly. Offerings, vows, the exchange of cinnamon sticks. Then comes the sandal blessing. You produce the wedding slippers, palm fiber soles laced with tiny sachets of dried spice. Blessed, balanced, tested. Each partner slips them on, and nothing happens, which is excellent. Everyone exhales. Until Lali giggles. I think mine just hummed, she whispers. The crowd freezes. Rama glances at his sandals. Mine too. The priest frowns. You step forward. Describe the hum. They do. It's not loud, not threatening. More like music. A deep, soothing note, like a lullaby hummed by a forest. The priest listens. Could be a blessing. Could be feedback from the bark. Could be a cinnamon resonance loop. Hard to say. Should we remove them? Lali asks, half joking. The priest considers. No, let them sing. So they do. The wedding continues. The sandals hum softly every time the couple walks. No burning, no sparks. Just that steady musical note, like a heartbeat. Later at the feast, you sit beside Nalia, who's gnawing on a sugar-coated jackfruit seed and watching the newlyweds waltz in their humming slippers. Well, she says, that's new. Are we worried? You ask. She shrugs. Maybe it's the bark being happy for once. You sip your spiced toddy and try to believe that. Back at home, the gourd is empty. Both sandals, miniature and carved, gone. You sit for a long while. Then, the next morning, a note appears scratched into your door. The sandals walked east. Leave them. You're not sure who wrote it. No signature. Just a smear of bark oil and what might be a chili seed stuck in the wood grain. You spend the next few days on spice duty, overseeing drying, packing, labeling. It's a welcome distraction. You note a few oddities. A bundle that hums when touched, another that unrolled itself overnight. You mark them all for priestly inspection and double-thread the wrapping. One evening, as you're sipping tea by the fire, Devu appears, breathless. They're back. You raise an eyebrow. The sandals? No. The bark smugglers. You sigh. Worse. He nods. And they've got a new trick. The smugglers, you learn, have started seasoning sandal soles with powdered bark, then claiming it's part of a traditional detox ritual. It's nonsense, of course, but people are buying it. Literally. Some wear the bark-lined sandals for days, claiming heightened senses, spiritual clarity, or the ability to smell lies. Most just get rashes. You visit the smuggler camp under the pretense of a trade inspection. Their tents reek of overspiced ambition. One man offers you a walking incense experience. You decline. Another tries to sell you pre-blessed souls, which you accidentally set smoldering just by touching. You confiscate 3 bundles and toss a cursed sandal into the river, where it hisses and vanishes. That night, you find a sandal. Outside your door again. But this one's new. Made of cassia bark, not true cinnamon. A fake. Inside is a note. We know the difference, do you? You don't sleep much. The cassia sandal sits on your table like an accusation. It smells wrong, harsher than true cinnamon, with a bitter edge that lingers in your nose and reminds you of overcooked porridge and the lies of mediocre spice traders. You poke it with a stick. Nothing happens. You poke it again, harder. Still nothing. Just a dry crunch and a little puff of brown dust. Fake or not, someone left it for you. Someone who knows the difference. That's what worries you. You wrap the sandal in coconut, fiber, and send it off with a temple runner. Let the priests deal with it. You're done babysitting bark footwear for today, except you're not. Because just before breakfast, a monk shows up at your door with a scroll in one hand and a very serious look on his otherwise peaceful face. He bows. We've found something. Of course you have. You follow him through the winding path past, the salt pits and spice-drying racks, up to the high shrine where only the senior monks usually go, unless something is humming. Today, something is definitely humming. The cassia sandal, now placed on a bed of crushed marigold petals, is vibrating slightly. It's faint, but unmistakable. The hum is higher pitched than before. Nervier. Less of a lullaby, more of a warning. You stand very still. We tested it, the monk says, mixed it with a drop of true cinnamon oil. This began. You look down. The cassia sandal has started to sweat. Historians still argue whether spices have natural rivalries. Some claim true cinnamon was once worshipped, while cassia was used only by pretenders. Others believe the rivalry was invented by merchants who wanted to charge extra for the sweeter kind. But the spiritual implications? That's new. We think. It's rejecting the oil, the monk says softly, or trying to warn us, or both. You step back. Can we burn it? The monk shakes his head. Not safely. Bury it? He hesitates. That may anger the bark. You sigh. So what do we do? He shrugs. Feed it. You blink. Feed it. What? He hands you a small clay bowl of rosewater and coconut milk. It's what we give restless scrolls. You've officially reached the point in your cinnamon career where you are offering drinks to shoes. You dip a corner of cloth in the mixture and dab it on the sandal. The hum stops. You're welcome, you mutter. Later you find yourself in the spice archives, searching for old references to cassia and cinnamon interactions. The archivist is an ancient woman with eyes like pickled mangoes and an alarming fondness for chewing betel nut mid-sentence. Cassia, she says, smacking her lips, is cinnamon's cousin, the jealous one. Grew where cinnamon couldn't. Used when cinnamon ran out. She rummages through scrolls until she finds one wrapped in gold-threaded bark. This, she says, is the tale of the sandals that split. She unrolls it with reverence. The story is simple, but chilling. 2 sandal makers long ago, each swore their spice was supreme. One used only true cinnamon, the other only cassia. They crafted matching pairs, each claiming theirs would bring the wearer fortune, clarity, and smooth feet forever. The sandals were tested at a royal festival. The cassia pair burst into flames during a ceremonial dance. The cinnamon pair floated into the air and vanished. No one saw either maker again. The archivist cackles. Lesson is, never put pride underfoot. You take a rubbing of the scroll for safekeeping and thank her with a pouch of clove sugar. She slips it into her robes and waves you off. Back in the village, the talk of the cassia sandal has spread. Children chant songs about bitter shoes and burning toes. A spice vendor starts selling cassia-safe slippers made of banana fiber. They're hideous. They sell out in a day. You keep your own sandals locked in a box. That evening, Nalia finds you by the sea. You know they're testing us, she says. The cassia cult? She snorts. No cult, just opportunists. But they know about the humming, about the mini sandal, about you. You rub your temples. Why me? Because you're not cursed yet, she says. And that's suspicious. She tosses a cassia stick into the surf. It bobs, then sinks. You need to decide, she adds. Do you want to keep walking this path, or do you want to pass the sandals on? You look down at your feet, still bare, still unburned, but tingling. I'm not done, you say. She nods. Then be ready. That night you dream of two sandals, one of true bark, one of cassia, locked in a slow dance around, a fire. They move in circles, then in spirals, then they vanish. When you wake, your pillow smells like both. Morning brings with it a new smell. Not cinnamon this time, but smoke. You step outside, still bleary-eyed, and see a column of haze rising from the east. The village square is already abuzz, and your neighbor Devu, who seems incapable of panic, even when on fire, looks genuinely concerned. Portuguese, he mutters. You blink. Already? They're here for the spice, and maybe to sneeze on it. You've heard the stories. Portuguese ships arriving like floating palaces of noise, full of metal-clad men who can't pronounce local words but are somehow experts on everything. They love cinnamon. They crave cinnamon. And unfortunately for everyone else, they think it should belong to them. You rush toward the port. It's chaos in a polite way. Merchants shouting in 3 languages, children offering snacks to visibly confused sailors, and one monk trying to bless a cannon. The first Portuguese captain you spot is wearing a doublet that's wildly inappropriate for this humidity and sandals that are suspiciously shiny. He grins when he sees you. You are the cinnamon whisperer, yes? You sigh. Depends. Are you about to hand me a cursed shoe? He laughs. No, a trade. We bring silver and nasal suffering. That last part isn't a joke. He sneezes violently and wipes his face with a napkin embroidered with tiny sailing ships. Do your men know not to inhale the bark directly? You ask. He shrugs. They're learning. Yesterday one tried to use it as snuff. He hasn't stopped hiccuping. You're shown to their cargo hold, where you inspect their trade goods, mostly forgettable trinkets and some very suspect barrels of wine. In return, they want cinnamon, bundles, quills, paste, and, worryingly, cinnamon-infused leather. You raise an eyebrow. Boots, the captain says, to march in scented power. You shake your head. No cinnamon boots. That's how people vanish. He waves his hand dismissively. Superstition. Explosion, you reply. Just last month. He finally agrees to simple bark and paste, and you begin the transaction. The loading crew handles the cinnamon. With padded gloves, smart. But one man, eager to impress, opens a bundle and buries his face in it. He sneezes once, then again, then begins to recite what sounds like poetry. Is he quoting Virgil? Someone asks. No, says another. He's speaking backward. The man is gently escorted away and dunked in a barrel of water. Later, as you oversee, the ceiling of the crates, you notice a strange glint beneath one of the bundles. You lift it. A sandal, not old, not worn, but clearly made from bark. The grain pattern forms a spiral. Distinct, familiar, too familiar. You turn to the captain. Where did you get this? He shrugs. Gift, from a trader inland. Said it would. Bring smooth sailing. You frown. Did he vanish after? Possibly. You take the sandal, wrap it in palm leaf, and add it to your personal pouch. The hum is faint now, like a song you almost forgot. As the ships prepare to leave, the captain hands you a gift, what he calls Portuguese perfume. You sniff it. It smells like rotten figs and ambition. You thank him anyway. Back in the A village, the monks have begun preparing for the Cinnamon Blessing Festival. It's a seasonal event, equal parts trade fair, ritual, and excuse to wear ridiculous headgear. You're asked to help arrange the sandal offering display. This year's collection includes a pair of half-burned cassia flip-flops, one humming miniature sandal, not yours, a sandal-shaped pastry made of bark sugar, and, of course, a ceremonial true cinnamon sandal gilded in gold leaf and tied with hair from a blessed goat. You add your latest find to the display. It vibrates once, softly. The priest nods in approval. The festival begins with music, dancing, and 3 separate accidents involving overly spiced snacks. A child sneezes so hard she knocks over a spice tower. A traitor claims he can smell lies and begins interrogating everyone about their true intentions. The monks gently escort him to the quiet tent. But the heart of the festival is the sandal parade. Children wear spice-themed outfits, one dressed as a giant cinnamon quill, another as a clove pod with eyes. They chant rhymes, toss flower petals, and giggle as they dance around the sacred fire. The lead child carries a sandal on a cushion, flanked by 2 other children holding spoons of paste. The whole ritual is meant to honor the bark, calm the spirits, and remind everyone not to make cursed footwear. As the sandal is placed into the flame, the crowd chants, "Bark beneath, guide our feet, hum not, burn bright, sleep sweet." The sandal burns clean, no screams, no humming, just a quiet whoosh and the scent of peace. You exhale. One more day, no new curses. That night, as you prepare for bed, you find a note slipped under your mat. The boots are coming. Prepare the salt. You groan into your pillow. You don't sleep well after the note. Who wrote it? Why the boots? And most of all, how much salt are we talking? A pinch? A barrel? A full oceanic reenactment? Dawn creeps over the palms like a slow yawn. You rise with gritty eyes and sore calves, only to find Devu standing outside your hut with a burlap sack and his "You're not going to like this" face. They've arrived, he says grimly. You know immediately he means the Dutch. Compared to the Portuguese, the Dutch are quieter, more calculating, less flashy, but no less obsessed with cinnamon. Possibly more. Where the Portuguese show up with cannons and sneezes, the Dutch show up with contracts, engineers, and oddly polite letters requesting your immediate compliance with something vaguely terrifying. You follow Devu to the main storehouse, where 3 Dutch officials are inspecting bundles with gloved hands and clipboards. One of them is wearing the largest pair of boots you've ever seen, knee-high, leather, and faintly glowing with a suspicious sheen. Spiced soles, Devu whispers. Oh no. You approach with cautious optimism. Maybe they're just decorative. They're not. The boots, you learn, are part of an experimental project by the Dutch East India Company. Cinnamon Combat Comforts, one of them calls it. Soldier tested, general approved. Anyone catch fire? You ask. He laughs. One did. We learned. He gestures for you to inspect the next crate. Inside, bark-infused linings, pre-packed into bundles marked with little windmill symbols. The Dutch, in their infinite caution, are trying to standardize the spice, turn the mystical into metric. You lift a piece of bark. It crumbles slightly in your hand. Too dry, too thin. You sniff it, no hum, but something feels wrong, as though it's been asked to perform and forgotten how to dance. These are over-harvested, you say. Bark this dry wasn't ready. The official frowns. We were told it was mature. You? Shrug. So were your boots, apparently. He glances down. They do hum at night. You offer to help sort the shipment, separating usable cinnamon from the ghost brittle cast-offs. The problem is, the Dutch have already mixed the batches. No color coding, no spirit marks, just crates of confusion. This, you mutter, is how curses happen. As you work, you overhear a junior officer whispering about a spice diplomacy plan. Apparently, they're offering cinnamon for cannons, a trade proposal with local kings that involves outfitting regiments with spiced boots in exchange for military support, because nothing says diplomacy like explosive footwear. Historians still argue whether the VOC's obsession with cinnamon stemmed from legitimate economic interests or a collective aromatic mania. Some letters suggest their governors believed the scent increased loyalty. Others hint at its use in olfactory surveillance. You try not to think about it too hard. By midday, the sorting is mostly done. You've separated the haunted from the hopeful, and the Dutch seem satisfied, especially the booted one, who tests his souls by hopping twice and declaring, "No fire." Progress. That evening, you return to your hut, exhausted, hands still smelling like bark and imperialism. You sit on your mat and stretch your toes, only to notice a small pile of salt at the foot of your door. You stare. Then, just beneath the salt, you spot something else. Another sandal, but this one's tiny. Not quite as small as your original humming friend, but child-sized and made of stitched cassia and true cinnamon. You lift it. It's cool. Doesn't hum. Doesn't glow. Inside, a single clove. Your fingers tingle. You take it to the shrine. The high priest inspects it without touching. "This is a blend," he murmurs. "Cassia for trickery, cinnamon for clarity, clove for deflection." You raise an eyebrow. "Deflection?" He nods. "There are rumors. Some believe spices carry intentions. Clove can redirect." "To what?" He shrugs. "Whatever needs redirecting." You leave the sandal with him and retreat to the beach, hoping salt air will clear your mind. You sit on the warm sand, watching the moon rise, and try to forget about boots, bark, and the smell of preemptive Dutch regret. Then you hear it. Footsteps, soft, rhythmic, bare. You turn, nothing. Just salt swirling in the breeze. Morning brings no peace, only pirates. You're halfway through your first bowl of cardamom porridge when a runner arrives, breathless and sweaty, blurting, "There's a boat, black sail, anchored at the southern cove, claiming to trade in cinnamon, no paperwork, no shoes." You stare at him. "No shoes?" you ask. He nods. "Barefoot, all of them." You drop your spoon. Within an hour, you're on a goat cart rattling toward the cove, armed with nothing but a stick of bark and a notebook labeled "Absolutely no unauthorized footwear." The ride is bumpy. The goat is moody. You start to hum to calm yourself, only to realize the tune matches the hum of your old miniature sandal. Not ideal. At the cove, the ship is waiting. Sleek, unmarked. Smells faintly of overripe bananas and, yes, cinnamon. A figure greets you at the edge of the sand, tall, tanned, and barefoot. His toes are crusted with salt and sand. His anklets jingle like trouble. "You're the bark master?" he asks, voice smooth as coconut oil. "You're the pirate?" He shrugs. "Trader, opportunist, footwear minimalist." You sigh. "What are you selling?" He gestures toward a stack of crates. "Cinnamon, pure, blessed, untouched by sandal or soul." You frown. "Where's it from?" He grins. "Ancient grove, forgotten by maps, remembered by scent." You pop open a crate. The bark inside is thick, dark. Not cassia, not true cinnamon, something in between. You sniff it. Your nose tingles. Your vision flickers. "You're calling this blessed?" "Cleansed," he says. "Harvested under a blood moon, stripped by hand, aged in silence." You blink. "That sounds cursed." "Some blessings wear sharp shoes," he replies. You gather a sample and retreat for testing. Back at the village lab, a hut with 3 clay pots and a goat named Testy, you grind the bark, mix it with water, and observe. It bubbles. It hums. It glows. You add clove. It dims. You add mint. It spits. You add salt. It purrs. Historians still argue whether such reactions were chemical, spiritual, or just the universe having a laugh. You note everything, label the bark. Possibly possessed, and return to the cove. The pirate offers you tea. No thanks, you say. He sighs. Will you trade? You hesitate. For what? He opens a chest. Inside, 2 prisoners. One a Portuguese spice thief, the other a local boy who got lost chasing humming sandals. I'll take spices, he says. You take them. You look at the prisoners. The Portuguese man sneezes. The boy hums. You agree. Later, as you lead the boy back home, he talks non-stop about the grove. He says the trees whisper, that the bark sings, that the roots remember. You're beginning to believe him. You stop at the shrine and hand the high priest a sliver of the glowing bark. He sniffs it, then shudders. This isn't from here, he says. It's older, wilder. You tell him about the pirate, about the blood moon, about the barefoot crew. He nods slowly. There are older paths, the spice remembers, and it walks them. That night, you place the sample beside the old miniature sandal, now cool, but occasionally twitching like a sleeping foot. You dream of a boat made of bark, sailing on a cinnamon-scented wind. It hums, it whispers, and beneath its hull, sandals walk alone across the waves. You wake to find your floor covered in salt. You don't even pretend this morning will be normal. Not with the salt trail still on your floor and your neighbor's rooster refusing to crow, just sort of wheezing like it too, has inhaled too much cinnamon. You sit up slowly, swing your feet over the edge of the mat, and immediately notice something missing. Your spare sandals, gone, vanished, whisked off in the night like the world's least threatening robbery. You stand barefoot, instinctively checking your pouch. The miniature sandal is still there, but now it's upside down. You flip it. It hums once, softly, then goes still. You exhale. You're due at Gala Fort today. A trader there claims to have received a bundle of cinnamon that growls. Not squeaks, not hums. Growls. You gather your notes, wrap your feet in blessed palm fiber slippers, and make your way to the coastal road. The journey is slow. Too many carts, too many goats, too many people nervously sniffing their spice like it might bite back. Gala Fort rises ahead, sturdy and sun-bleached, its walls etched with centuries of whispers. You pass guards lounging near the gates and slip inside the spice quarter. The smell hits instantly, cinnamon, clove, pepper, and a distinct whiff of salted fish. You try not to gag. At the trader's shop, the bundle in question sits alone in a woven cage. Yes, a cage. Why the bars, you ask. He shrugs. It lunged. You blink. It's bark. He nods. Exactly. You approach cautiously. The bundle trembles slightly. You lean in. It doesn't growl. Not exactly. It grumbles, like a gassy stomach crossed with a warning drum. You poke it with a cinnamon stick. It burps. You step back. The trader crosses himself. I didn't do anything. I just opened it and it snarled. You unroll the top leaf. The bark inside is unusual. Not dark, not golden. Striped. You touch it. A spark. Not pain. Just static. Like a bark-charged hug. You roll it back up and sit down. Where's it from? You ask. The trader shrugs. I think it followed a tourist shipment, mixed with souvenirs. Came in with some carved masks, a coconut teacup, and a sandal-shaped soap. You sigh. You've seen this before. Bark that hitchhikes. Unattached, unrooted, seeking connection. Historians still argue whether this phenomenon is spiritual, botanical, or simply spice's stubborn refusal to be categorized. You decide to take it to the fort's ghost tellers, an unofficial group of aunties who sit under the bale tree and whisper to lost things. They agree to investigate the bark, provided you fetch them 3 mangoes and a cup of goat milk. Fair price. While they commune with the bundle, you explore the fort's lesser-known spice corridors, shadowed alleys where traders share gossip, compare sandal burns, and sometimes wager on bark bounce tests. You overhear someone mention the whisper sandals again, pairs that hum only in moonlight, or when worn by people with unresolved grudges. A man claims his mother's sandals started humming after he lied about selling her cinnamon. They stopped once he confessed and got mildly slapped. You make a note. By sunset, the aunties call you back. Their verdict: the bark is lonely. You key. Frown. Lonely? Yes. It's been separated from its grove. Too long, too far. Now it seeks. Seeks what? They tap their temples. Memory, or music, or maybe just a good stew. You take the bark, now quiet, and decide to return it to the spice forest. You walk back to the grove at twilight, a soft breeze curling with the scent of wet bark and evening flowers. You lay the striped piece near a root cluster, press it into the earth, and whisper an apology. The bark quivers, then settles, then hums, a single soft note that fades into the soil. You exhale, feet warm in your slippers. Behind you something shifts, a pair of old sandals. Your old sandals, just sitting there, waiting. You don't pick them up. Your old sandals, still faintly stained with cinnamon, still slightly warped from that day near the cursed grove, are sitting side by side on the path like loyal pets who wandered off but remembered to come home. But you know better. Sandals don't remember, they watch. You step carefully around them and walk home barefoot, letting the cool night soil draw the spice from your soles. At your door, you pour a line of salt. You place your blessed slippers inside a coconut shell. You sleep with one eye on the gourd that holds the tiny sandal, which has begun twitching again like it's dreaming of long walks in haunted groves. The next day, your assignment is simple. Teach a group of village children how to spot cursed bark. You're given a scroll, a satchel of misbehaving samples, and exactly 1 hour before their attention spans dissolve into sugar-induced chaos. You gather them beneath the banyan tree and hold up the first bark roll. This one's clean, you say. A girl squints. How do you know? You smile. It doesn't smell like betrayal. You move on to another, darker, slightly oily, humming at a low frequency only cats and monks seem to appreciate. This one, you say, is moody. They laugh. Then you show them the cassia decoy, dry, sharp, bitter-edged. You ask what? They smell. Lies, says one boy. Pepper, says another. Goat, says a third, pointing to the actual goat behind you. You nod. Correct. All of the above. The lesson ends with a game. Bless or burn. You pass out little bark samples and let them decide which goes in the blessing bowl and which gets marked for spiritual disposal. They take it seriously. Too seriously. 1. Girl insists her bark is flirting with her. You nod solemnly and assign it to the monks. After the session, you head to the temple where an unexpected sight awaits. 2 young monks with swollen feet, standing sheepishly near the fire pit. Let me guess, you say. Spiced sandals? They nod. One mumbles, "We thought it would help us meditate faster." The elder monk sighs. It helped them levitate for a moment, then fall very hard. You inspect the sandals, worn, poorly stitched, with bark shavings tucked under the insoles. The scent is overwhelming. You suggest burial. The elder agrees. The sandals are wrapped in turmeric-stained cloth and taken to the edge of the grove. You say a few words. The sandals hum once, resigned perhaps. Then goes still. Back in. The village, you meet Devu near the well. He's snickering. What now, you ask? Your name is spreading. You frown. Why? He points to a group of merchants arguing under a banner that reads, "Approved by the Sandal Whisperer." You groan. Apparently, someone, possibly Nalia, has begun using your image to market safe sandals, guaranteed hum-free, curse-resistant, and backed by centuries of sleepy spice wisdom. You've never said any of those things. You demand to speak to the seller. It's a teenage boy with one eyebrow and too much confidence. You using my name? You ask. He shrugs. Only because the other options were taken. And yours hums. You sigh. Fine. 10%. He blinks. Really? Plus bark royalties. He nods solemnly. Deal. That evening, Nalia finds you at the fire. She tosses you a fresh pair of slippers. These ones only hum when you lie, she says. You raise an eyebrow. Do they hum now? No. Good. She leans in. But they will. If you start claiming you invented them, you chuckle. The fire crackles. You smell cinnamon in the air. Clean, gentle, unbothered. But even in the calm, the whispers persist. People say the sandal curse is growing subtler. It doesn't burn, it doesn't boom. It just lingers. Mild itching, vague humming, dreams of walking endlessly in circles. You think about the note, about the boats, about the bark that grumbled. You glance at the pouch around your waist. The miniature sandal is glowing again, barely. You're summoned before sunrise, a soft knock, a folded note, a single word. Ritual. You rise, groggy, blinking at the candlelight. Outside, the village is hushed. No bird song, no footsteps, just the soft churn of tide and the ever-present scent of cinnamon. You follow the salt-marked trail toward the temple glade, where a flickering ring of lanterns reveals a scene out of a fevered spice dream. At the center, a stew pot the size of a cartwheel. Around it, monks, dancers, and elders, all barefoot, all quiet, all wearing ceremonial garlands of cinnamon quills and turmeric blossoms. It's stew night, whispers a voice behind you. Nalia holding a wooden ladle like a scepter, and you're the guest taster. You blink. Why me? Because it's your name on the spice bundle. She grins. You peer into the pot. The liquid simmers thick and dark, flecked with spice oil, drifting bark, and chunks of tuber so old they probably qualify as artifacts. It smells amazing, like dinner and memory and deep comfort, and also faintly of bark oil gone rogue. One elder gestures you forward. The cinnamon stew of reconciliation, he intones, has not been cooked since the sandals burned the poet. You pause. Which poet? They all point to the same tree. You step up, take the ladle, and stir. The liquid turns, lazy and fragrant. A chunk of something, probably not meat, floats by and hums. Just slightly. Tradition says the stew reveals the health of the bark. The elder adds, if it sings, we listen. If it dances, we worry. If it smokes, we run. You ladle a bit into a ceremonial gourd, take a cautious sip, and wait. The taste is complex, warm, woody, a bit too clove-forward. There's a metallic afterbite and a flash of something that feels like regret. It's thoughtful, you say. The monks nod. The stew is portioned out, shared in silence. Some people hum softly, others weep. One man sneezes and sees a vision of his grandfather holding a sandal. Emotion is running high. Historians still argue whether the cinnamon stew of reconciliation was ever literal food or a symbolic stew of communal spice, aromas burned in sacred bowls to promote unity. But here it is, ladled out and steaming, and it's absolutely real. Once the pot is emptied, the ceremony shifts. At the edge of the fire circle, a sandal is produced. Not just any sandal. The ceremonial one, made of true cinnamon bark, cured under a full moon, wrapped in threads pulled from wedding robes and temple flags. It's old, revered, and tonight it's being offered to the flame. You are handed the honor. You hold it over the fire. It is warm, but not from your hands. It pulses faintly, not humming, beating. The bark remembers. You lower it into the flames. It does not burn. It glows. Light pulses from the sandal like a heartbeat, spreading out through the crowd, across the trees, into the soil. Everyone is silent. Then it begins to disintegrate, not in ashes, but in petals. Cinnamon blossoms. Hundreds of them scattering into the wind. People gasp. Someone drops their bowl. The elder nods slowly. The bark forgives. As the crowd disperses, Nalia slips beside you. "Nice touch," she says. "I didn't do anything." "Exactly. That's why it worked." The next morning, you return to your hut to find your mat covered in cinnamon petals. At the center, your miniature sandal, still glowing. Beside it, a second one. Identical. They hum together now. You gather them gently, wrap them in leaf, and head to the temple. The monks receive them with quiet reverence. They are placed in a sandal-shaped alcove flanked by incense and 2 sticks of gum mastic to soothe the soul. You spend the day helping clean up after the ritual, scrubbing pots, burning offerings, returning flower garlands to the compost gods. That night, the dreams come again. You're walking through bark groves, over sea foam, across bridges made of cinnamon sticks and salt. You're not alone. There are sandals walking beside you. Just the sandals. No feet. You don't ask questions. You wake with cinnamon petals in your hair again. This is your life now. Part-time spice trader, part-time sandal negotiator, full-time humble servant to the whims of sentient footwear. You rinse your face in the well, trying to shake the dream, but the feeling lingers. Soft sandals walking beside you, brushing past your ankles like cats made of bark. You're not surprised when a courier arrives before breakfast with yet another summons, this time from the jungle village of Caladenia, deep inland, where the cinnamon groves grow so wild and old that some trees are considered family ancestors. They want your expertise. Strange things, the courier says. Bark behaving oddly, groves whispering. One man claims he saw his own footprint walk away without him. Classic. You grab your notes, your palm fiber slippers, dusted with ash per precaution, and a fresh pouch of salt. The walk is long. Caladenia doesn't welcome carts or sandals with arrogance. You travel by foot, through humid paths where the air is thick with the scent of living cinnamon and something else. Something older. The village is quiet, reverent, nestled between towering groves and small shrines built from bark and bone. The elder, a woman with bark-stained hands and eyes like fermented tamarind, greets you with a single question. "Did you bring them?" You blink. "Bring what?" She gestures to your pouch. "The humming ones." You hesitate, then open the pouch. Inside, silence. The 2 miniature sandals are no longer humming, but they rest gently against each other, like sleeping twins. The elder smiles. "Good. They're listening." You're led to the grove where the strange activity began. The air shifts the moment you step beneath the trees, cooler, despite the sun. The bark glistens, as if recently rained upon. A low thrum vibrates through the soil. Birds avoid the branches. The trees have begun to sing, the elder says. She's not wrong. As you walk deeper, the air vibrates gently. Like a song without sound, you crouch beside one of the trees. Its roots twist like dancers. Mid-spin, you place your palm on the bark. It's warm, not hot, not cursed, just present. You close your eyes, and you feel it, a memory, a footfall, a step, someone walking, long ago, in cinnamon sandals, too powerful, too pure. A trail carved in scent, an echo buried in bark. You open your eyes. The tree has left a print on your hand. It remembers, the elder says. You're brought to a small hut where they've collected bark samples from troublesome trees. Some curl inward. Some have patterns like fingerprints. One piece emits a faint sound when held against your ear. Something like laughter, something like wind. You test each one. Most are safe. Some make your skin itch. One makes a goat sneeze, and then faint. Do not sell that one, you say. The elder nods. In the afternoon, a group of villagers performs a calming dance for the grove. They wear garlands of soft cinnamon leaf, no bark. The music is simple, drums, breath, heartbeat. The ground responds, pulsing, shifting. You swear one root lifts and gently lowers again, as if nodding along. You're invited to join the final ritual, burying a pair of offerings, symbolic sandals made of braided vines and bark, to show the tree's humility. You kneel beside the pit, place the offerings down, and whisper a small thank you. The soil hums, the wind picks up, above you the trees shimmer. It feels like forgiveness. As you prepare to leave, the elder stops you. You'll take one with you, she says. She hands you a sliver of bark, golden, smooth, etched with a spiral. What is it? You ask. A map, or a memory, or maybe just a key. Back in your village, the world feels quieter, like it's waiting. You place the spiral bark beside the sandals. They begin to hum again, just once, like a sigh. You keep the spiral bark in a bowl of dried mint leaves and salt. It rests without complaint, occasionally warm, sometimes cool, always quiet unless approached too quickly. Then it emits a soft tsk, like an impatient auntie who told you not to run inside the house. Nalia visits that morning, her hair braided with cinnamon stems and mischief. Big day, she says. You frown. Why? She grins. The tour groups are coming. You groan. Once every few seasons, a flock of wide-eyed, sandal-wearing foreigners descends on your village, hoping to breathe in some authentic spice air, and maybe buy a cursed trinket or two. They come in groups, carry bottled water, and ask impossible questions like, "Can I ride a cinnamon goat?" You help set up the market stalls with a mixture of dread and resignation. Devu's selling sandal-free cinnamon TM again. The monks are handing out blessed clove lozenges. One woman is braiding quills into mustaches and selling them as face focus sticks. A man approaches your table. He's wearing boots. Not regular boots, cinnamon-colored boots. Too polished, too new. Are they spiced? You ask, cautiously. He beams. They're infused. A new product from Colombo. Cinnamon Tech soles. I'm field testing. You step back. Sir, you begin gently. Has anyone warned you about volatile spice reactions? He laughs. Marketing overreaction, surely. It's just bark. You glance at his boots. They glisten. They hum. You yell for the monks. Within minutes, the boots are in a clay pot full of salt water, and the man is standing on a banana leaf while reciting the apology chant for misuse of bark in commercial innovation. You sit him down with tea and a paste of sandalwood to soothe his ankles. I thought it would help with posture, he mutters. They always do, you say. Once the drama settles, the tours resume, now with an added no-bark footwear policy, enforced by a boy with a whistle and a frighteningly accurate sense of smell. You retreat to the temple, sandals in hand, and place the humming pair beside the spiral bark. They quiet instantly. A priest leans over. They like it, he whispers. You're sure? He nods. Harmony. They've found their center. You stay to observe the temple ceremony that evening. Bark offered to flame, Stories sung in spice-riddled verse, a woman balancing a cinnamon bowl on her head while chanting in Sanskrit, and sneezing once every third stanza. It's oddly beautiful. During the quiet moment afterward, the high priest kneels beside you. "It's time to ask the question," he says. You blink. "What question?" "Where do they walk when we're not looking?" The thought sends a shiver. Through your spine, you glance at the sandals, miniature, quiet, deceptively still. Do they dream of groves? Of footsteps forgotten? Of the first footfall that carried cinnamon from tree to trade? You don't answer. The priest hands you a scroll, sealed with wax shaped like a sandal. "Take this to the coast," he says. "There's one more step. That night, your dreams return. Sandals walk in spirals across tide pools. Bark quivers in the moonlight. A voice whispers, the final footprint burns brightest. You wake with sand on your feet, and the hum, soft but steady, coming from inside your chest. You leave before dawn, the sealed scroll tucked safely in your sash, your slippers reinforced with turmeric thread, and a single cinnamon blossom pinned to the toe. Part blessing, part deterrent, part decoration depending on who asks. The road to the coast is quiet, sun just hinting at the horizon, air still cool enough to feel like a borrowed memory. You don't travel alone. The humming sandals ride in your pouch, the spiral bark clutched gently in a cloth wrap, and that old sense of being followed, watched, not threatened, trails you like a shadow stitched from spice. You're used to it by now. You even greet it. At the coast, the sea opens like a patient mouth. A narrow inlet waits, framed by cinnamon trees bent low as if eavesdropping. A boat, small, carved from a single log, lined with salt-stained silk, rocks, gently at anchor. No sail, no oars, just presence. You step in, the boat moves, not fast, not loud, just forward. It glides along the inlet, passing under arching palms, past stone shrines shaped like footprints, and out into the open lagoon where the tide breathes slow and deep. No one speaks. Not the wind, not the water, not the sandals. When you reach the far side of the lagoon, a sandbar rises from the sea like a secret resurfacing. Waiting there is an altar made of coral and twisted roots, draped with dried blossoms and aged bark offerings, some still humming faintly. You step out, place the spiral bark gently at the center. The sandals, as if waking from a long nap, wriggle. Free from your pouch and rest beside it. You open the scroll, it's blank. Then, as if ink remembers how to be seen, words appear. For every step carried in greed, a groove is cut. For every step carried in song, a path is born. These are your paths. These are your grooves. Now walk. The bark quivers, the sandals glow, and then they burn. Not in fire, in light. They vanish. No ash, no sound, no smoke. Just a hush, like a finished thought. You kneel, unsure if this is an ending or the start of a quieter step. Back in the village, the petals have stopped falling. Children still whisper about sandals that dance when no one's watching. The stew pot has gone quiet. But your feet feel lighter, not cursed, not haunted, just carried. The scent of cinnamon lingers as you return. Home, soft now, not sharp, like the trace of incense long after the flame has died. You unroll your mat, sit down slowly, and breathe in the familiar notes of bark and salt and a breeze that smells faintly like stories. Your slippers sit quietly. Beside the door, no longer humming, no longer twitching, just resting, maybe dreaming. Maybe not. You stretch your toes and press them gently into the cool floor, letting the weight of the past weeks dissolve. Out in the distance, someone laughs. a calm one. Somewhere, a goat sneezes. It feels appropriate. You lie back, the roof of your hut casting its usual patchwork shadows, your thoughts drifting like powdered bark in morning light. The sandals are gone. The curse, if it was ever real, has softened. It's hard to say if anything truly ended, or if everything simply shifted. One half step, one breath, one heartbeat toward peace. The wind sighs through the trees. You close your eyes, and somewhere, far away, soft footprints echo in sand you will never see. But tonight, you rest. Tonight, you sleep. And the spice hums only in your dreams. End of script. Sweet dreams.